Chapter 7. Sally raced down the hallway, slightly sweating, not from exhaustion but of worry. She could not locate the kids and was growing more anxious. She ran past the main throne room and stopped, then backed up. Bunny was in there with Tara and the other children. Sally ran into the room, her fist flaring behind her. "Tara, please take the kids into the basement," she said, trying to keep the worry from her, though she couldn't contain it from her eyes. Tara saw this and nodded immediately. "Come on, kids. Let's go to the basement and play there," she said, trying to herd them out. Skur ran to Sally. "Oh, Mom, do we have to?" he asked, clutching her leg. Sally looked down and crouched to him and hugged him hard. "Yes, honey. Go with Tara to the basement, okay?" The little hedgehog kicked the ground. Okay," he said, running back to Tara. They left the room together. Bunny, who was watching this in silence, ran over to Sally. Sally noticed she had dressed herself in a loose-fitting dress, one that wouldn't tear if she happened to transform again. "Oh, my." "What's going on, Sally girl?" Suddenly, a very large roaring noise filled the room. They looked out the large plate-glass window at the immense black ship approaching. "We're under attack, Bunny," said Sally, with a natural calm that frightened Bunny more than anything else. The ship grew and grew in the window, blocking out the sun and casting a shadow over the entire castle. "Well, shields hold the against tonight?" asked Bunny, wide-eyed, pointing at the approaching ship. "I don't know, Bunny," said Sally. They turned their heads at the approaching footsteps. Antoine's guards rushed into the room, dressed in their battle armor. They were wearing strap-on leg arms, arm guards, helmets, and breastplates. They carried large plexiglass shields and wielded small laser pistols. "Oh my God, they brought in a SWAT team!" Sally hated the pistols, even though she knew that sometimes they were necessary. They lined up on either side of the wall, standing or crouching defensively. "It's the guards are all in positions, my queen," Antoine said to Sally. Sally nodded her head. "Thank you, Antoine." She turned her head back to the window, the ship still advancing steadily. Now all we could do was wait. Uncle Chuck kept his eyes glued to the monitor showing the advancing ship. He did not see the figure creep up behind him and knock him out with a blunt object. It bounced off his head and Uncle Chuck slumped to the floor. The figure dragged him across the floor, tied him tightly with some wire. The figure approached the shield controls and proceeded to lower them. When the yellow lights went out, the figure pulled out a small laser pistol and demolished the console. When this was done, it pulled a small communicator from his tubes. "Rotor to mechanics. The shields are down, master," he said, checking to see that Uncle Chuck was tied tightly. Twins of regret bounced through his mind, but that was quickly gone. The reply was instantaneous. "Excellent, my mechanical minion! Proceed to phase 2! Acknowledged to the mechanics. Scorch and Sonic tore through the forest, racing towards the castle. Mechanic's ship was ahead of them, and they had to catch up. The ship loomed over a hard on the horizon. Its engines filming through the sky. Sonic had tailed straight over his shoulder while Scorch carried Ami in his arms. The trees around them blurred as they raced down the trail. Sonic turned to regard his friend. "Scorch, I gotta ask, what happened to you all these years?" His voice almost a whisper. "Well, you remember 15 years ago when we parted? You thought I was trapped inside that building with Ami and died when it blew up? Well, he used chaos control. Boo! But just before that, I was able to tunnel under the building to escape. Fortunately, I had to go slow since I had Ami with me. It only dug about 20 feet when it blew. There was a rush of superheated air down the hole, which I blocked with my back to protect Ami. I was severely burned. After that, we managed to escape to the southern provinces, where Ami nursed me back to health. That's when we fell in love. He gave Ami a squeeze. Anyway, he frowned. After that, we concentrated on finding Robotnik's forces in the southern regions. After we learned that Robotnik was finally defeated, we wandered to the Isle of Mern, where we met Dr. Rose. He told us of the project he was working on with your uncle. Soon after that, we saw Rotor come to the island. He stayed with Dr. Rose for a month, helping him with the project. Then mechanics came. "Tell me about him. He is one bad dude," said Sonic, frowning. Scorch nodded. "The worst. He came down with an army of what he calls Omnibots and took Rotor and Dr. Rose captive. I don't think he knew about the Mega Power Ring, but I'm sure he does now. At any rate, we couldn't stop them." Sonic blinked. "So that's what all those burn marks were. Those heavy footsteps. Wait a minute! I thought Rotor was at the castle!" It's more than likely it's a mechanical duplicate of Rotor, said Scorts. He's still on the ship, as far as we know. Your friends are in grave danger, Sonic. We gotta rescue them, exclaimed Sonic. Scorts nodded, agreed. Ami here will do that. You and I will take on the mechanics of the castle. I've been waiting a long time for a rematch. He grinned. Sonic grinned back. I like the way you think. Of course you do, said Scorts. I'm you, aren't I? They both laughed. Your adventuring days are going to continue. They fell silent when they got closer to the ship. Anson's roaring drowned out any chance of conversation. Suddenly, the large ship opened fire on the castle, knocking large chunks of rock and plaster from it. The trio drove into a set of bushes to wait. The ship fired again, this time knocking the castle on its foundations. They're firing at the castle, hissed Tommy. And the shields are down, said Sonic, a sad look in his eyes. They were in the shadow of the giant ship and went unnoticed. Then a hatch opened onto the side of the ship, and several dozen Omnibots jumped down, fully armed. They approached the castle doors and destroyed them, clearing their entry. They disappeared inside, and Sonic could barely hear weapon fire inside. We gotta help them, said Sonic, straining to leap up. Scorts restrained him. Too many. We have to wait. Up above, another dozen Omnibots leaped up from the ship to the upper levels, disappearing inside. Scorts turned to Ami. How many did you count? He asked. 3 dozen, exactly. The same as the first time, on the island, he whispered. Scorts nodded. Good. There should only be a few left on the ship. He turned to Sonic. Okay, bro, it's showtime. Yeah, said Sonic, clenching his fists. He and Scorts revved up and rocketed off, up the side of the castle. Come on, I know a good vantage point, yelled Sonic. Scorts nodded and followed him. A Sonic soldier, tail stirred. Well, huh? He said dizzily. He saw Sonic below him, but it was the wrong color. Take it easy, kid. You're going for a little ride. Fun, huh? Scorch smiled. Tail smiled back. Yeah, for fun. Amy wants to... Wait, are we dealing with our Amy Rose or... No. You see, there's the I. Oh, right, so it's Ami, not Amy. God forgive me for getting a little confused here. We got Amy, we got an Ami. And according to Deke, same thing. Ami watched the 2 Hedgehogs race up the unbroken side of the castle. She was secretly happy they had found each other after so many years, but sad in the fact that she could not find her own father. Undaunted though, she kept in manner she hoped to battling evil. She looked at the frighteningly large ship. She scanned its underside looking for... Ha! She found it. Small hats in the left-hand corner. She moved back to the trees and pulled down what she hoped was a strong vine. When she had enough, she used her sword to cut it, then tied the end of the vine to the handle of the sword. She tightened it and then walked into the clearing. Hoping that the blade was strong enough, she hurled it upwards and struck it to the hull side of the hat with a dull thunk. She tested the vine and hopped on it, swinging upwards. She climbed up the hatch and turned to the small wheel she found there. The hatch cycle opened. Ani carefully peered inside, and when she saw it was clear, used both her hands to flip herself up and inside, landing on her haunches, her skirt billowing around her. What? She's not wearing any panties. And she shaved. Ow! Perv. I know, Trix. I know. She removed the sword from the hull and released the vine, watching it drop to the ground below. She sensed the hatch and trod down the hallway, holstering her sword. She wandered down the clean, machine-like hallway. It was covered floor to ceiling in solid steel with no breaks whatsoever. There were no decorations, no markings except for the small red circles on the wall every 100 feet. She infiltrated target! Her shoes made small noises on the steel floor as she walked down them, looking for the prisoner's chamber, or brig, or wherever Rotor and Dr. Rose might be. She was surprised at the lack of activity on board, for she saw no one. The ensign's hum drowned out any sound that they would make anyway, and she rounded the corner and turned back quickly. 2 bots were walking down the hallway, side by side, carrying large rifles. Ami and Holte were stupid enough to actually fire them into the ship, and quietly padded off behind them. Unknown to her, mechanics had given these 2 express orders to terminate the prisoners, as they had outlived their usefulness. He entered through the door, which quickly closed behind him, leaving Ami out in the hall. Her quiet murmurs. Did the name Rose? Satisfied he had the right door, he reached to free her sword. Halt, intruder! A mechanical voice said behind her. The battle computer on Ami's sword reacted and sent Ami down a low backwards foot sweep, which knocked the bot's legs out from under it. It crashed to the floor, and instantly Ami was on her feet again. The robot tried to raise his rifle to shoot, but Ami had drawn her sword. Sliced the rifle in half. She finished it with a hard low kick to the head, which permanently scrambled its circuits. The door behind her opened, and Ami twirled, her sword slashing to the two guards and destroying them. They fell to the ground, smoking and sparking. She leant over them. Inside the room were Rotor and Dr. Rose, hanging out the wall, held by some sort of airsy bond. Rotor raised his head from his chest. Who are you? He croaked. A friend, she said. She ran over to him, tried to tug the bonds free, to no effect. The switch, Rotor pointed his head. Ami turned and leant over, twisting in. No! Yelled Rotor. As the bonds released the two, they fell to the floor with a crash. Ami ran over to him. Sorry, she said sheepishly. Rotor rubbed his wrist. It's okay. Where are we, anyway? He asked, his voice getting strong. We're over Castle Acorn in New Metropolis, she said. Dr. Rose, your daughter is in there as well. Amy, let's see some Carlson, Dr. Rose said crashlessly. Ami nodded. Dr. Rose shook Robert by his robes. Do you still have the hot shots? He turned to Ami. Did McCoys get to make a powdering yet? He asked, breathless. Ami thought. He has a patterning, but it's not the mega patterning, she said after a moment. Do we have a moment to lose? Let's get before Mechanics does. Ami led the way out of the room. She made sure the hallway was clear before they proceeded. Mechanics surveyed the castle through his fused screen. It sat there, practically begging him to destroy it. He chuckled softly. And so it ends! He raised his voice. Gunnery! Commence firing a primary target! He barked. The small robot there activated his console. Outside the surface of the ship, Maynard's range reports activated. The forward guns started firing, throwing deadly bolts against the unprotected surface of the castle. The walls shook as debris rained down. Loose items fell to the floor. People were shaking out their feet, and the walls were caving in. Mechanics regarded the smoking castle. Again! He barked. The robot obeyed. Now smoking laser cannons belched forth to destruction again. The bolts disintegrating the rocket brick as the castle shook once more. The seals are down! Someone yelled. Guards rushed around, panicking, not knowing where to direct themselves. Sally whipped her head around. Down? How could he be down? She asked, dodging the falling debris. A guardsman ran in, sweating, face streaked with dirt. His arm was scorch marked. Leave it, please. Robots in the lower levels, he panted, tail swishing nervously. And you lost attention! You had a good tension there, then you had to say the tail was swishing like a little puppy. Slowly, the outer wall blew inwards, the occupants ducking under the flying debris. Buddy, but standing by the wall, was completely buried in the rubble. Several robots let down a mechanic ship that had been hovering outside, started firing their weapons. The guardsmen fired back, and the battle was joined. Laser bolts sold everywhere, tipping rock and leaving a small ozone smell. Buddy! Sally yelled, trying to take her friend out, but was prevented by the invading robots. She gritted her teeth and jump-kicked the nearest one, causing it to stare backwards, aiming at her. She kicked the one in the chest, caving in its chest plate and making it spark. She managed to roll out of the way of a fire robot until a guardsman cut it down. Guns the Queen! I don't see what these rogues he shields! Yelled Antoine over the noise of battle. The guard had been talking to his nodded to his feline friend, and then moved closer to Sally. Antoine ducked out of the room and ran towards the hallway into the lab. The fight had not reached that level yet, so he made his way unimpeded. When he reached the lab, he pushed the doors open and found Uncle Chuck lying on the floor, trying to undo himself with the tight wires he was bound with. Antoine threw down his shield and pistol and knelt by him to hurt. As he removed the wires, Uncle Chuck cursed. Who did this to you? Asked Antoine as he removed the last wire. Uncle Chuck stood up quickly and rubbed his arms to his wrist. I don't know, but the shields have been knocked out. I can see it from the floor. We have to fix them immediately. He rushed over to the still smoking console, trying to wait the smoke aside to see the damage. There is already fighting in the castle, pointed out Antoine. Uncle Chuck changed the monitors. I see. We'll have to activate the castle interior defenses from here, he said, moving to the another computer. Why do I feel like I should be playing Dare by now? Antoine knelt by the computer console. I will see if I can get CCUs back online, he said, ripping open a panel and peering inside. Uncle Chuck activated the monitor. I see the main throne room has been invaded already. We did have it saved. The fighting was still going on in the throne room. No of the robots shut down the ship hovering outside. Which was good since they had all they could handle at the moment. Sally was busy dodging laser bolts, and the guardsmen had their hands full as well. Please tell me Sally picks up a laser and goes all Rambo on them. Sally jump-kicked a robot and flipped up behind the throne when a robot fired, sensing her leg. Sally went down with a short cry, holding her burnt leg. Suddenly, the pile of rubble that Bunny had been under began to move. Unseen by all, an electrical field that was being generated inside. Bunny grew taller, her arms and legs expanding to their mechanical sizes. Her boobs were bouncing rapidly. And her hips, oh god, her hips and... Trixie continues to have her taser armed, folks. As he strained to push the debris off of her. Finally, the debris pile exploded outwards and Bunny jumped clear. Alright, darlings, time to kick some butt, she said, launching herself at the nearest spot. She punched it with her metal arm, decapitating it. She turned around and kicked out the butt behind her, shattering its legs. It was a robot against Cyborg, and Bunny was winning. Her legs shifted, and she jumped out of the way of a charging Buzzy and stumbled out of the hole in the wall. She landed on the opposite side of the room with a small thump. Sally was still beside her throne when a hand came out of the darkness behind her and grabbed her in an unbreakable chokehold. She gritted her teeth against the paint and tried to move, but it wouldn't buzz. A familiar voice growled in her ear. Just hold still, said Rudder, pulling Sally close. He moved a small laser pistol from his rose and raised his voice. All right, everyone! I have your queen! Put down your weapons and surrender or I will kill her! The guards turned slowly and realized that he was talking to them. Stunned, they threw their weapons with a crash, standing dully in a semicircle. Bunny relaxed her fighting stance, her grip on a bot's neck. Soon after, the other bots attacking other parts of the castle came in with their prisoners. Rudder spoke into his arm. I am the Queen, Master. Castle secured. Excellent, came the mechanical reply. I will be there immediately. Sally turned her head. Who? Rudder smiled. I'm about to meet Lord Mechanics. A dark shape materialized in the smoke by the hole in the wall. It sauntered in, walking like someone who was in full command of it. He was 7 feet tall, and his silver armor gleamed from smoke. His red eyes glowed from the impenetrable horde. You've done well, Rotor, the figure rasped in a deep voice. Your Highness, I am Lord Mechanics for the planet Machina. I have come to conquer your world and claim it for my masters. And now I have you. My mission is complete. Go to hell, growled Sally. Mechanics laughed. Ha ha! It really is a pity. This world wasn't much of a challenge. I would have enjoyed a little resistance. Well, as it is, there is no one to stop you. How did you coerce Rudder to help with the scheme? Asked Sally, struggling in Rudder's grip. Mechanics chuckled. This is a mechanical duplicate of your good walrus, your highness. I have the real Rudder over my ship. I have him, and now I have you. It is over. It ain't over till the Fed Fund sinks, Mechanics. Mechanics looked around. Who dares? High up on the trellises that bordered the ceiling, Sonic, Tails, and Scorch stood. He looked down in absolute anger. Did you miss me? Asked Sonic. Thought you left me behind? You forget, pal. I'm the fastest thing alive on Mobius. Mechanics swirled around to regard the three heroes and turned back again. You forget, mammal, that I have your queen. Surrender, and you'll have my word she won't be hard. He snarled, pointing at Sally. Sonic hesitated, looking to Scorch for help. Scorch looked back at him dubiously, not even sure if he could make it down there in time. Chaos control. The Mechanics did not wait. He whirled back to Rudder. Kill her now! Rudder immediately grabbed the barrel of a pistol in Sally's ear. He was about to pull the trigger when something stopped him. He tried to move his finger, but couldn't. He started to sweat for the exertion. Mister, he said, sweat pouring from his brow. Mechanics fixed him with a cold glare. Well, what are you waiting for? Kill her, he commanded. But Rotor couldn't. The mechanics had built him. He transferred a copy of the original Rotor's mind to him. All of Rotor's thoughts, feelings, and emotions had also been transferred. He found that he couldn't kill Sally. Sally, his friend. Sally, his confidant. Sally, his queen. Not now or ever. He yelled in frustration and tossed her aside and pointed the pistol at mechanics. Shaking, he fired on his former master. The bolts piercing the cloak, but doing none other damage. Mechanics sighed sadly. I see where I made my first error, he said, pointing his finger at Rotor. If I could change one scene and think about this scene, and I do like it, it kind of makes me think of the Sonic OAV. You know, when we see Metal start doing things more Sonic-like, it would be this. You would hear from the mechanical Rotor's voice, it seems he's got friends in high places. And Nicole took him over. That would just be me. I made you too well. This shall be corrected immediately. A bolt of golden energy erupted from his finger, and Rotor blew apart. Face, skin, and mechanical insides flying everywhere. Bunny screamed, You monster! She yelled, throwing herself at him. Caught her easily and flung her against the wall, where she dropped to the floor, stunned. He whirled to his Omnibots. Attack! Reduce this place to molten ash! He yelled. Up above, no longer stunned by the offense, Sonic and Scorch went into spins and raced down to the floor, cutting through the attacking bots. Tails flew down to protect Sally. The two Hedgehogs made quick work of the Omnibots, reducing them to shattered pieces. Soon they faced mechanics. Give it up, Metalhead. It's over. You lose, said Sonic. Mechanics laughed, a deep rasping chuckle. I think not! He raised his hand, and golden bolts of energy splashed out. Sonic was too quick, though, and easily dodged the golden storm. Scorch likewise took off, racing the opposite way of Sonic. The two Hedgehogs raced around Mechanics and up the walls. Mechanics tried to follow them, unless he got with the bolts, entirely missing them, pockmarking the walls, ceiling, and floor. Stand still, rodents! He growled. Sonic and Scorch screeched to a halt beside each other, arm in arm. Is this good enough? Scorch asked. Are we sure this isn't Shadow? Mechanic smiled behind his cloak. Perfect, he said, unleashing a giant blast. But Scorch and Sonic moved apart. The wall behind them blew apart. Mechanics swore, Blast you, Hedgehogs! He backed up against the wall where his ship hovered. What does it take to destroy you? Sonic shook his head. More than what you got, chump. Mechanics ground his teeth, ready to release another blast, when the world fell on top of him. Ani, Dr. Rose, and Rotor rounded down a metal hallway. They met no one, or a thing along the way. Rotor led the way, obviously on the lookout for something. We passed it by ourselves, Edward. I knew it's somewhere around here, he said, casting worried glasses left and right. Dr. Rose pushed left. All now, he said. Rotor turned down the hall and stopped in front of a computer terminal. Here it is, he cried triumphantly. He accessed it, glad there were no codes needed. He worked on for a minute, then turned back to them. I generated a program to overload the engines in 20 seconds, he said. It'll destroy the ship. That's amazing, exclaimed Tommy. How could you know to do that? Laura grinned. One of the tricks I picked up on my travels around the globe. I also found out where an escape pod is. We have to get to it in a hurry. He took off, Dr. Rose and Ami following behind him. Almost immediately they came upon a small escape pod. Rotor ushered them aside. Hurry! We have to squeeze in! He said, diving after them. It was a tight fit. Rotor, you're losing some weight. But Rotor managed to push the disengage button, which jettisoned the pod. For none too soon, the engines overloaded and exploded. A giant fireball erupted near the edge of the ship, shooting debris for miles. More smaller explosions soared around and started falling towards the castle. Uncle Chuck stared at the monitor wide-eyed. He turned quickly to Antoine. Antoine, place the shields immediately! He yelled. Antoine tapped the connection, quickly rose to the panel. He swiped at the controls, and the telltale lights went on. Triumphant, he turned to smile at Uncle Chuck when the ship slid to the castle. The areas the ship closest to the castle had been caught in the shields. It exploded. The Bulk of the ship slid to the shields also exploded. The castle shook violently. Debris rained down everywhere. Huge towers fell to the ground, walls caved in, rock and mortar falling everywhere. Uncle Chuck and Antoine were knocked off their feet, and several objects dropped to the floor. Mon Dieu, what a speed! I said Antoine several seconds later, looking around. Uncle Chuck crawled back to the monitor. Most of them were out. All that showed the screens were static. Many computer terminals were on fire. Smoke filled the room. Emergency fire permitted, and equipment men worked sword work of it. The ship landed in the castle. Some of the ship was caught in the shields, which caused a minor failure. But the rest of the ship outside the shields, thank goodness, we sustained some major damage in the feed. He accessed the throne room. It's quite a mess, but I see Sally and Buddy on round 8. He pressed the column. Queen Sally, give everyone to the lab, please. An alarm's explosion surrounded mechanics, and he whirled around towards the source. Incredulous, his ship was plummeting towards him. Several explosions ringing out behind it. He had no chance to move as the ship plowed into the castle, burying him in metal and stone debris. The wall buckled. The wall of fire plastered into the throne room. The Scorched Sonic picked up as many people as they could and hightailed it out there. Tails picked up Sally and quickly flew her out. They all stood there, breathless, panting. This was totally demised. The outer wall caved in on mechanics. The other walls on most of the floor were cracked. Plaster and concrete debris littered the floor as well. The acorn crest had fallen from the ceiling and laid in pieces, and the purple curtains in the throne lay in tatters, covered in debris and dust. Is it over? Asked Bunny, brushing herself off. Scorch nodded his head. Not by a long shot. You won't be down for long. He turned to Sonic. Only that mega power ring can save us now, he said. But we don't have the CCM part, said Sonic. Then we're in very big trouble, said Scorch, looking at the pile of debris mechanics stood there. Ami, Dr. Rose and Rotor managed for the capsule, regarding the mess. The mechanic ship lay sprawled on the side of the castle, burning. The side of the castle was totally destroyed, debris everywhere. Well, said Ami. Rotor and Dr. Rose were already running up the stairs. We have to get to the lab, said Rotor. Ami looked over them, landing light as a cat in front of them. I'll lead the way, she said, running inside the castle, drawing her sword. She kicked the front doors open, motioning them inside. They ran down the extensive hallways that were severely damaged by the fighting. Only 2 Omnibots confronted them, but Ami dissipated them with her sword. You know, I'm normally not sexually attracted to anthro deers, but, I may change my opinion. As they were running, they came across a frightened Tara and children. Tara was crying, not knowing where to go. The children hid onto her, frightened. A clever recognition in Amy's eyes as she beheld a familiar face. Father! Caesar cried, breaking her right toward him. Dr. Rose scooped her up in his arms, holding her tight. Amy! Matata, I'm so happy to see you. They both cried, hugging each other tight. Rotor placed a hand on Dr. Rose's shoulder tenderly. I have to break this up, but now that we have Amy... Dr. Rose nodded. Yes, you're right. Come on, Amy. We need you. He put her down, and with Tara and the children, they all ran down the hallway. They ran up several flights of stairs until they reached the level of the throne room the lab were on. They ran down the hall, seeing Sonic, Scorch, Sally, Buddy, and the remaining guards. Rotor caught Scorch's last statement. No, we have the CCM, he shouted. They all turned to see the running figures. They all greeted each other in surprise and warmth. Behind them, the pile of debris started to move. They all regarded fear in their eyes. To the lab! Quickly! Sally shouted. Yeah, I was about to say, I'm happy for this reunion and all, and I'm not going to let you finish, but, we're in trouble! They all ran as fast as they could to Uncle Chuck's lab. Antoine held the door open, motioning him inside. When he entered, Antoine closed and bolted the door. Ready! Dr. Rose! Exclaimed Uncle Chuck. I'm happy to see you. He clasped his hands with Dr. Rose. We could really use that CCM, but... Amy has it, said Rotor. Everyone said Dr. Rose turned to Rotor. Say what? That's like, when we went to the island, we couldn't find it. Dr. Rose's lab had been trashed. Rotor turned to Amy. This because before the mechanics attacked us, we dismantled the CCM and built it into Amy's clothing. Even she didn't know about it. Her belt, hairband, and bow contained the parts of the command module. As he was speaking, Dr. Rose had removed the articles of clothing from... Hey, turn around! from Amy and reboot the small microcircuits with it hidden inside. He then proceeded to rebuild the module while Brother was talking. Oh, classic trope. I don't mind it. Actually, now that I think about it, we haven't hit that trope in this whole entire series, have we? We need someplace to hide where mechanics would never think of looking, said Robert, beaming. Sonic shook his head, laughing. Bro, you are a genius, he smiled. Uncle Chuck removed the ring from the pedestal. He approached Dr. Rose with it. Edwin, if you do the eddies. Dr. Rose held up the small microcomputer and clipped it to the ring. Once the ring's outer casing started to glow golden, the wiring around it absorbed the energy and held it in check. Uncle Chuck removed his hand from his back, revealing to Sonic a new pair of sneakers. Here, Sonic, you need to wear these special shoes to use the ring. Your old ones would burn up. Sonic smiled and kicked his old wet sneaks off and put on the new ones. They were red like his old ones, but these had gold stripes, while his old ones had white. Cool, Unc, he said. Uncle Chuck took the Mega Power Ring to Sonic. Get, he said. Sonic caught the ring in midair and held it up, but it still used flashy golden energy. 2 golden beams reached for it, circling in the room and exploding on Sonic. He closed his eyes as the energy bolts raced around him. The energy lifted him off the floor. The beams crossed him many times, each time turning his fur from blue to gold. No way. He still hovered off the floor, totally golden in color. He opened his eyes, regarded his friends. His golden energy beamed from their awestruck faces. How do you feel, Sonic? asked Sally. Sonic smiled. Super. Like a supersonic, he said, his voice oddly deep. He floated to the ground. Wait, so we have Sonic going super without the Chaos Emeralds? Bitchin'! Although, this does make me think. Okay, guys. In Dragon Ball, in the Lord Slug movie, Goku went into a semi-Super Saiyan state. This was mainly because the movie was made before we even knew what Super Saiyan looked like. So they gave it to Goku. This has been regularly called by most fans, and I think even the Dragon Ball Data book, as Super Saiyan 0.5. So, for my book and for me, I'm going to nickname this Supersonic 0.5. Not quite supersonic, but just enough to get the job done. Remember, Sonic, said War Uncle Chuck, you have to keep a hold of the ring, or else you lose the power. Sonic nodded, just before the walls reverberated with a mechanical yell. Sonic! The debris pile moved, quivered, and exploded outwards. Mechanic put tons of debris from him. His cloak had been torn from him, and he was covered in small scratches and dents. He stood to the mechanical being, his red electric eyes burned with intense hatred, his mouth forever frozen in a grimace of anger. He clenched his fists, raised his head up, bellowed at the name of his enemy. He stepped in front of the pile, slowly walked out of the throne room, and turned to Sonic. Sally turned worriedly to Sonic. He's coming! He said. Sonic looked at her with an expressive calm. No problem, Sal. Super Sonic is up and on the job. Holding the ring high, Sonic started moving his feet. He increased his speed, and he found himself being enveloped in a golden ball of energy. Soon he was right so fast that he turned into a fireball. He was entirely opaque, but gave off no heat at all. He took off and streaked through the doors, destroying them. He rocketed down the hallways towards the throne room. Mechanics was there, walking with murderous purpose toward him. So, folks, which song do you want to play? Personally, I'm playing personally, my mind's immediately clicking on Undefeatable, but there's a part of me that wants to do Find Your Flame. Ooh, we could do Open Your Heart. Oh, how about 7 Rings? Hit it. 7 Rings Reborn! Da-da-da, Reborn! Go da-da-da, for me. Sonic poured on his speed and smashed into mechanics, lifting him off his feet. Sonic carried him through two interior walls and through the 3-foot thick outer walls. He soared like a golden comet over the field surrounding the castle and out into the forest. Sonic zoomed him towards the ground, mechanics still in front of him. He hit the ground at subsonic speed, covering a mile-long trench into the ground. Sonic flew straight up, leaving a smoking, sparking mechanics 7 constants of the trench. Mechanics lifted himself for the impact. He clenched his fist and regarded Sonic, releasing several golden blasts at him. 2 bolts bounced harmlessly off the golden energy field that surrounded him, the other being absorbed by it. "Try some of mine, mechanics," said Sonic. He held his hands in front of him and fired several large golden fireballs at mechanics. Once deployed, it sent them flying. "Ooh, I do love when I parry right," crashing into a grove of trees. After a few seconds, mechanics was again lifting himself up, though rather unsteadily. Sonic cursed and lost himself in mechanics, using his entire body as a weapon. He struck him 1, 2, 3 times, the 3rd time sending mechanics into another stand of trees, where he lay deathly still. Sonic flew down to the now silent area of the destroyed trees, golden energy shield dissolving. He approached the opposing form of mechanics carefully. "Now to take that ring back," he said. He looked over mechanics to find his chest casing. As he did so, mechanics' eyes lit brightly and grabbed Sonic by the neck, squeezing hard. Mechanics stood up, holding the gasping Hedgehog in his hand. Sonic tried to pry the arm loose, but couldn't with only one hand. Mechanics' eyes glittered. He reared back with one hand and smashed it against Sonic's face. He growled and smacked him again, knocking Sonic unconscious. He tore the ring out of Sonic's grasp and watched as his fur changed back to blue. He shook Sonic roughly as Sonic came to, fist and blur. "Now, you'll watch as I use the power of this ring to destroy your world!" Mechanic grasped. He opened his chest casing, revealing the first power ring. Seeing as how he had his hands full, he tossed Sonic aside, knocking him into a tree. Mechanic removed the ring and tossed it far from him, and Sonic replaced it with the Mega Power Ring. Almost immediately, Mechanics began to glow. Smell skin turning yellow. "Yes!" he bellowed. "I feel it! Feel the awesome power to destroy!" he yelled triumphant. Sonic lifted his head painfully from the ground where he lay, and grinned at Mechanics. "You forgot one thing, Mechanics," he said. He opened his hand and the CCM module fell out into the dirt. Sonic made a fist and brought down on it, destroyed the computer module. Suddenly, Mechanics' face went strange. "No!" he howled. "Too much! Can't control it!" Sonic flailed around, swinging through the air. The ring inside Mechanics started to go wild without the module. The wiring broke off, and energy beams shot off inside him. Back at the castle, Uncle Chuck turned from the monitors to the small group behind him. "The ring is gonna blow any second!" he said, face worried. Scorch did not have time to think. "Out of here!" he said, racing out the window and down the walls. He hit the ground and stormed into the forest, rocking along past the trees and bush, until you could see Mechanics stumbling around. "No!" he yelled, trying to claw the ring from his chest. He grabbed it and yanked hard, but the ring had fused itself to him and refused to budge. He staggered around, golden beams shooting from his eyes and mouth. It looked to Scorch as his smell shell was starting to crack. A low-pitched whine started to sound from Mechanics, getting louder and higher by the second. He didn't think he could make it to Sonic in time, but he spied the first power ring just to his left. He angled over, grabbed it and held it high. "Ballin' Warp 10!" he yelled. The ring exploded its energy over him, and he sped at Sonic at super speed. He became a glur and raced past Sonic, grabbing him by one arm and pulling him along. He ran a few short miles when Mechanics exploded like a mini-nuclear blast, rocking the forest. Scorch and Sonic tumbled along to the ground, knocking out their feet into blasts of the air. I'm just gonna say it right now. Chaos Control! A huge fireball reached up high to the sky and leaves. Branches and several pieces of broken rock and dirt fell around them. When the fireball subsided, Scorch and Sonic looked up. Where Mechanics once stood was now a deep crater. It passes and fused dirt from around it. Scorch helped Sonic to his feet, and together they walked over to the crater. Sonic looked around it, and bent down and picked up a black, irregular shaped object. "Well, so much for the Mega Power Ring," he said. Scorch nodded. It's better this way. It was too dangerous anyway. His own greed destroyed him. Sooner or later, someone else would have tried to possess it. Same result. Sonic looked at Scorch. You're right. Look what this ring has done already. It endangered my family and friends, caused a lot of damage and ruined my home. I'll make sure this ring can never harm anyone again. He grabbed the ruined ring in both hands and pulled. It came apart easily, and Sonic broke into many pieces. They fell to the ground, making small holes in the door. Scorch jerked his head towards the castle. Come on, Sonic. Let's get you home. The inhabitants of Castle Acorn, led by Sally, met Sonic and Scorch in the rubble-infested courtyard just beyond outside. Sally ran up to Sonic and kissed him hard, holding him tight. Ami bounced over to Scorch, who grabbed her hands in his. Tails, with Tara in an arm, and all the kids behind him came out, followed by Uncle Chuck and Antoine, the palace guards, all looking worn and ragged. You did it, Sonic! Sally said, holding him. Sonic shook his head. I didn't do it. His own greed got to him. He couldn't control the ring, not without the module, he said. But at least the battle proves one thing. Uncle Chuck piped in. What is that, Sonic? By working together, we can defeat anyone who threatens us, Sonic said, casting a glance at the crater. Sally smiled. Oh, mister, I had to grab the spotlight. Working together with someone. That's a first. Well, there's something I like to do, which involves just myself, said Sonic. Oh, what's that? Sonic rubbed his stomach. Eat! I'm hungry! He laughed while everyone swatted at him and grumbled. He held his hands up. What'd I say? He asked.